Margaret Cairlock, and firstly on behalf of the regional group I would like to thank Coit Niall, our parliamentary assistant, for the work she's done here. Minister, we are in an energy security difficulty and an energy cost crisis. Can I just read something into the record briefly from the Irish Petrol Retailers Association? A station owner, Johnny Brady at Cool Key, recently received an electricity bill of €23,000 for the month of August. He says that paying these bills is unsustainable. His electricity cost for the overnight rate has increased from 7 cents per kilowatt hour to 37 cents per kilowatt hour. He says, I have nothing against data centres, but wind turbines run overnight when the country's usage is at a minimum. Are the data centres also paying 30 cents per kilowatt hour for this overnight usage? And he calls for the Commission of Regulations of Utilities to investigate urgently and let the country know that businesses and families are not being penalised unfairly for overnight usage. And he also goes into significant verbiage there regarding rates, which is also coming back from local authorities. So there's very significant difficulties facing our business community and our domestic community, Minister, which I know you're aware, but I would question the policy now of government and whether it is reactive and proactive. And I suppose specifically what I'm thinking in terms of is green policy, Minister. And I did reference this in the debate last night, the forestry sector. And we know the green credentials around forestry and that we want to increase forestry, increase carbon sequestration. But at the moment, if you look at where forestry licences are going, 80% of them are for felling, not for planting. And the most of that are going towards the public sector and not the private sector growers. And this is just one significant disconnect. We have in our motion called for the reopening of Lanesborough and Shannon Bridge power stations, Minister, to be fuelled by biomass. But that can only be achieved if we are going to seriously look at the kind of legislation we have for thinning forestries at the moment, which is not happening simply because of the amount of bureaucracy around it. Also today there was an article in the Irish Examiner showing that the government did not in fact make any application to the EU new Repower EU programme, a €35 billion programme to try and ensure energy security. And despite that there was a significant component in here that Ireland could apply to under biomethane and anaerobic digestion, 800 million in fact would have probably been our share. It is obvious that the Green Party did not support the government looking to this, because I believe you're not a supporter of anaerobic digesters. And I think this is a significant deficit in the country, Minister. You can tell me I'm wrong, I'm sure you probably will. But we didn't make the application, Minister, and we left 800 million lying around, it looks like. Solar PV, which has been mentioned also in our motion. Minister, why can we not disregard planning permission for new solar PV? And in fact, there is new barrier what would I call membranes that are being developed in the Far East that will cover roofs, not solar panels, just actually barrier membranes that can represent and that can generate solar power. And surely this is something that we should now be becoming active on. We gave a commitment to the agricultural sector over 2 years ago that we were going to significantly provide grant aid to farmers for deploying solar power. But again, we have no way of getting back to the grid for most farmers, so they can only use it for their own purposes. And this is no good when they have spare power that they could certainly put back into the grid. And finally, Minister, I think again we need to speak about the supports to households and to businesses. And I know that you have signalled, or the Taoiseach has signalled, that some of these supports will not be ready by the time the budget is approved in less than 2 weeks, that we have to wait and see what the EU are going to come up with. Can we not be more proactive, Minister, I would ask, in terms of trying to provide supports? We must give a signal to our domestic economy, to our SMEs, as to how are we going to support what is coming down the road. Otherwise, people are losing confidence absolutely exponentially, and people are looking at their business models. I met a very large publican business in Waterford before the weekend who tell me that they're now considering closing down at the end of September, October, because their business is not sustainable, and they think for them the best thing they can do is stay closed until February, March last week, with the loss of probably nearly 25 whole-time jobs. So, Minister, that would be my contribution to you on this. Chair.